And welcome back to the BBN Report, where we talk all things college football. My name is Blake, and we are continuing on with our game-by-game team prediction videos for the 2022 season. I have an entire playlist of these on my channel. If you are interested, you can go on my channel. There's a playlist created of my other preview videos I've done. And we are going to continue today with the Georgia Bulldogs, your 2021 college football champion Bulldogs. Finally getting that national title dog off their back, if you will. And what a team Georgia had last year. That team that UGA had last year was an absolutely incredible team. One of the best teams, in my opinion, in recent memory. And they were dominant basically all year long, except for really the SEC title game, in which their defense really let them down, which was kind of a big-time surprise. If anything, in that game, you would have thought Stetson Bennett and the offense would have let them down, but that was not the case. But also had that one hiccup last year. Georgia was absolutely dominant. They ended up winning the national championship, like I said, defeating Alabama. I believe 33-18 was the final of that game. And really leaving no doubt that they were the best team in college football a year ago. And with that being said, it's looking like Georgia is not going to be as good as they were last year. But I am still very, very high on Georgia for the 2022 season. And I think this is a top 5 rated team right now. Potentially even top 3 kind of team. But last year's team was historically good. So naturally I do expect to see some sort of step back this year. Even though I do think UGA is going to be one of the favorites to win the national title again this season. And going forward, I think that's going to be the norm down in Athens, because I think Kirby Smart is building an absolute dynasty down there. And Nick Saban can't coach forever, and I honestly would not be shocked if Georgia ends up turning into the next Alabama, if you will, because I do think Kirby Smart's one of the best coaches in all of college football. And I definitely think he deserved that big contract raise that he got there a couple of weeks back. But as we talk about the 2022 season here, the way I like to structure these videos is I like to talk about the offense, I like to talk about the defense, and then I'll bring the schedule up on screen and we'll go through game by game, and I'll tell you who Georgia is going to win and who I think Georgia is going to get beat by. But first up, like I said, we'll talk about the offense here. Stetson Bennett does come back this year. This is going to be his 6th season as a college football player. We are living in an era where people are given 6 years to play college football, thanks to obviously the COVID year. And if Stetson Bennett can follow up on what he did late in the season last year, I find it very hard that anybody else on the roster is going to beat him out for QB1. I mean, with his Orange Bowl MVP performance, along with being able to win a national championship, he was absolutely amazing in the fourth quarter against Alabama in that title game earlier this year. And like I said, I think with the way he played against Michigan in the Orange Bowl and the way he played in the fourth quarter, really the second half of the national title game, I think it's going to be very hard for any of the other quarterbacks on the roster to take the starting spot from Stetson Bennett. Now, Stetson Bennett did lose 2 targets off of last year's team, and Zamir White and James Cook. Both of those have moved on. But Kenny McIntosh and Kendall Milton are back, and those are 2 really, really good players. They definitely can't be overlooked. Those guys are really good real athletes as well. Now, Stetson Bennett did lose a couple of targets off of last year's team, and Zamir White and James Cook. Both of the guys have moved on. They end up bringing back Kenny McIntosh and Kendall Milton, 2 very good receivers in their own right. And they bring back Brock Bowers, who was the team's leader in receptions a year ago at the tight end position. So Stetson Bennett is going to have plenty of weapons to throw the ball around to this year. And I actually think that Georgia's offense is going to be better than last year's. Now, I think the wide receiver position is probably the weakest part of their offense. And that's saying something, because even the talent at the wide receiver is really good, especially when you recruit like Georgia does. But I do think that the offense is going to take a step forward this year. A lot of people thought last year the offense was obviously the weak part for Georgia, but I do think that the offense this year is going to be much improved, and I honestly would not be shocked to see Georgia have a top 5 offense this year. But arguably the transfer portal kind of hit UGA a little hard, because you can make the argument that Jermaine Burton was their best receiver and most talented player on offense a year ago. He has actually transferred out and made his way to Alabama. But like I said, they did bring back their leading receiver on Brock Bowers. He did miss the spring with the shoulder injury, but he does look like he's good to go for the fall camps right now. I believe he is practicing with the team and should be good to go week 1. Along with, also has a couple other guys to throw the ball to, and Adonai Mitchell and Eric Gilbert, who are also 2 pretty good players in their own right with quite a bit to prove. Now, the offensive line should be really strong again for Georgia. They bring back 3 of their 5 starters from a year ago. And the guy expected to make a big step this year is left tackle Broderick Jones. He did start in 4 games last year and saw extensive action in 2 other games, including the national championship game against Alabama, in which he actually really shined when he was in there. So it's definitely a guy to really look out for on the offensive line with a lot of talent, a lot of upside. And when he did play last year, like I said, he was really good for UGA. Now, on the defensive side of things, the Bulldogs are definitely going to have a lot to replace. They lost a lot off of that defense from a year ago, that historically great defense that UGA had. But Jalen Carter, arguably the most talented defender in the 2021 squad, is back, along with fellow junior Nazir Stackhouse and veteran defender in Trammell Walthor. So I definitely think that the defensive line is still going to end up being really good for UGA this year. This could end up being a defensive line that leads the SEC in sacks this year. I would definitely not be surprised in that category whatsoever if that was the case. There for a while, it was looking like at the second level of the defense there that UGA was going to have a completely new roster for the linebacking position, but their inside linebackers got a really big boost when Nolan Smith and Robert Beal Jr. elected to return, and they were amazing last year in the late stages of 2021. So that definitely is a good sign if you're a UGA fan for your outside linebacking position. But your inside linebackers, that's a whole different story. All of them guys off last year are gone. All of which were drafted, I believe. So there would definitely be a lot of new faces manning the second level of the defense, but Jermaine Dumas Johnson has shown a great deal of promise from what I've been reading when I was researching this video. And Samuel Mondon Jr. and Zavon Sori Jr. are 2 of the best overall athletes on the team. So I think that those guys are going to step in and be able to fill those holes pretty well and really show that UGA will probably have another really strong linebacking core this season. Last year's national title hero who sealed the game for Georgia, Keely Ringo, is back, and he'll be entering his 2nd season as a starter. The job across from him is definitely 100% up for grabs, even though Kamari Lassitier manned it in the spring. But that's definitely a job that is definitely up for grabs, and it'll be interesting to see who ends up nailing that position down as a starter going into week 1. Safety Chris Smith is back for his 5th season of college football, and the competition for the other safety position will probably last pretty deep into spring. There's a lot of different guys that will end up going for that spot, but it'll definitely be interesting to see who ends up getting it going into week 1, and if that changes even further down the line into the season. But that's kind of been my preview of the offense and defense. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to get the schedule up on the screen for you guys, and we can go through game by game and tell you who I think Georgia is going to win against, who I think Georgia is going to lose against, if I do think Georgia is going to have a loss on this season. First up for Georgia, they end up playing a neutral site game in Atlanta with the Oregon Ducks. A game that will definitely be pretty interesting to watch, even though I don't think Oregon is quite up to the task of beating Georgia. Yes, they went into Columbus last year and beat the Buckeyes, but this is, as the way the rest of that season ended up going, Oregon definitely never looked quite as good as they did against Ohio State, and I just don't see them going into Atlanta, Georgia, and beating Georgia. And it's basically a home game. You might as well just go ahead and play the game in Athens, for crying out loud. But I think that Georgia will start the season off 1-0, and I wouldn't be surprised to see them beat Oregon by 3 scores. So before they host Samford, which obviously this is going to end up being a win for Georgia. If they lose this game, they got a lot of problems. Before they go on the road to South Carolina. And South Carolina is a very interesting team because, I mean, South Carolina is a very interesting team because, I mean, South Carolina is a very interesting team because, I mean, South Carolina is a very interesting team because, I mean, South Carolina is a very interesting team because, I mean, South Carolina is a very interesting team because, I mean, South Carolina is a very interesting team because, I mean, South Carolina is a very interesting team because, I mean, South Carolina is a very interesting team because, I mean, South Carolina is a very interesting team because, I mean, South Carolina is a very interesting team because, I mean, South Carolina is a very interesting team because, I mean, South Carolina is a very interesting team because, I mean, South Carolina is a very interesting team because, I mean, South Carolina is a very interesting team because, I mean, South Carolina is a very interesting team because, I mean, South Carolina is a very interesting team because, I mean, South Carolina is a very interesting team because, I mean, South Carolina is a very interesting team because, I me South Carolina's record is probably going to be worse. They're probably going to go 5-7 this year, maybe 6-6. But this is a team that, in my opinion, is going to be a lot better than they were last year. But that being said, I do think that Georgia gets the win at South Carolina before returning home to get another win against Kent State. Let's face it, Kent State just isn't up to the level that is Georgia. Before they go on the road to Missouri, the most disappointing team since joining the SEC. Missouri's not going to be very good this year, in my opinion. It's looking like they're not going in the right direction anywhere in Columbia. So I have Georgia getting another road win at Missouri before coming back home to face a Auburn team that's currently, with Brian Harsin as the head coach, is kind of looking like a dumpster fire right now. The donors and the university itself, they seem like they want Larson gone, and I think they might get their wish, because I just don't see where they're going to have a very good year. Definitely going to be another down year for them, which is why I think that Georgia is going to get the win over Auburn before also hosting Vanderbilt the following week. Which, let's face it, I've said it before, teams with the SEC, Vanderbilt's going to be one of the worst teams in the Power 5. I just don't see any way Vanderbilt pulls the shock of the century off here. Georgia will get the win over Vanderbilt before heading into their bye week. And they come out of their bye week and they play their annual neutral site game in Jacksonville with Florida. And let's face it, Florida isn't in Georgia's realm right now. They're not recruiting well. First year with Billy Napier. I just don't see Florida being able to knock off Georgia here. Florida is also another team that's quite, in my opinion, not really trending the right direction. Recruiting is starting to pick up for 2023 for them, but this year they did not recruit well. They were a dumpster fire last year with Dan Mullen. And I just don't see this as any kind of game that Florida can come in and pull the upset off. Of course, it wouldn't be the shock of the century or anything, because Florida does still have talent. But as a team, they're just not in UGA's realm here. And Georgia will return home to host a Tennessee team. A Tennessee team who, unfortunately, I am very high on. You know, I don't think this is going to be the Tennessee team that we've saw for the last 15 years, 6-6, 7-5, maybe 8 wins if they were able to pull an upset off. I think Tennessee's going to be a top 15 team this year. I think they're going to be really good. I think they're going to have one of the best offenses in the nation. They return Hendon Hooker, who was phenomenal last year for the Vols. But all that being said, I just don't think they're ready to take that next step yet. Maybe next year, maybe the following year, they will take that step and knock off Georgia. But I got Georgia winning this game. And I think this game's going to be a lot closer than people are anticipating. Before Georgia goes on the road to Mississippi State. Now this is a very interesting game right here, because Mississippi State is a team that can jump up and upset teams, and they've been known to do that. They've upset Alabama somewhat recently, I believe. I know they upset Texas A&M last year. They upset Kentucky last year. So they're known to pull off the upset, and this is always a really tough road environment down there in Stark Vegas, because those cowbells, and their fans show up, they get loud, they ring the cowbells. This will probably be a night game. And this is a very interesting spot, because they just got done playing a really close game with Tennessee. And they got a game that could potentially be for the SEC East the following week in Lexington when they face Kentucky. So for that reason, I actually got Mississippi State pulling off the upset here and really shocking the Bulldogs. This is an unfamiliar environment. They don't go to Starkville very often. It's actually a pretty rare matchup, and they don't go there hardly at all. And like I said, this is a night game, and I think it probably will be a night game. I got Georgia losing this one. It's just too hard to go back-to-back seasons undefeated in the regular season. It doesn't happen very often. Doing it once is really, really tough to do, but doing it twice in a row is even harder. I think Georgia probably slips up here. It's not like it would be a shock to watch them beat Mississippi State by 21 plus points either, but I got them slipping up here and catching an L before going on the road the following week to Lexington to face the Kentucky Wildcats. And this is a game that very well could potentially come down to who ends up winning the SEC East. Kentucky and Mark Stoops are definitely trending in the right direction. They keep getting better and better every year. But I don't think this is the year that Kentucky takes that next step and knocks off Georgia. I got the Georgia Bulldogs winning this game, going 11-1 on the season and going to the SEC title game. Now, week 13 for their finale, they end up hosting their annual cross-state rival in Georgia Tech. And Georgia Tech is a dumpster fire, to say the least. The things definitely keep trending in the right direction. Their head coach will probably be fired during the season this year. So there's no chance in hell Georgia Tech is going to win this game. So I have Georgia going 11-1 like I said a while ago. But yeah, go ahead and comment down below if you think I got this right. Or you can comment down below and tell me that I'm completely wrong, that you think Georgia's going 12-0 or you think they're going to go 10-2. Whatever you think Georgia's record's going to be, go ahead and drop that down in the comments down below and tell me what you guys think. And go ahead and hit that like button, because a little love does go a long way. It can really help out the channel. And if you're new around here, consider hitting that subscribe button. I'm trying to post the college football videos all year round. It's definitely a passion of mine, and would definitely enjoy having you guys on this journey with me. And I'll go ahead and I'll catch you guys in the next